Hello, I'm Art Napolitano. I'm an entrepreneur and I've been successful in home-based business for nearly 30 years. I've literally traveled around the world. I've worked in Australia, I've worked in New Zealand, across North America, Mexico, Canada. I've spent a lot of time in the European markets working in many countries. I've had the pleasure of addressing audiences as large as 20,000 people, talking to them about business trends and the timing for opportunities. Now, I don't have a traditional background. I come from a musician's background, growing up around the Boston area in the United States. I dropped out of college and then I chased my dreams in the music industry and woke up at almost 30 years old and I was looking for something else. I realized I was tired of the normal day gigs. I love music, still am a musician, but I had big dreams and I hadn't found a way to make those dreams come true. I remember learning about the concept of distribution. And I've always been into personal development, and I remember a Tony Robbins tape that I listened to called Power Talk many years ago, and he was talking with a guy named Paul Zane Pilzer. Now, since I've actually done seminars with Paul Zane Pilzer, he's a mentor of mine, and I really was blown away when he talked about the concept of distribution as creating the next big wave of millionaires. And so he wrote a book called Unlimited Wealth, and he's actually become a big supporter of direct selling or home-based businesses. And so I had reached amazing a level of success myself through building organizations and being part of a company called ACN. But I really want to educate you, the audience today listening to this message, about what's happening in today's world. And I did a talk called Trends, Timing, and Opportunity, and really it's something you should be aware of. I remember Paul Zane Pilzer talking about the fastest growing minority in the whole Western world happens to be millionaires. In fact, in 1991 in the United States, he said there were only 3.6 million millionaires. It doubled to 7.2 million in just 10 years in 2001. That by 2016 in the United States, there was over 11 million millionaires. And by 2020, they're projected to surpass 20 million millionaires in the United States. The same trend is happening in Europe. But the question really came down to who becomes a millionaire. And Paul talked about working as a professor at NYU, and he was the youngest, I believe, Citibank VP in history of that company. He's worked as an economic advisor to 2 presidents, has been a best-selling author. So this is a guy that knows what he's talking about. And Paul and I became friends, and I remember his speech. He was saying he took his students and they studied the Forbes 400 to find out where these trends were and who was becoming successful as a result of being at the right place at the right time. He said in 1981, the Forbes 400 list came out, and when you looked at the list, almost everybody on the list came from a family where there was generational wealth. By 2012, he did the same study with his students, and they found that only 40 of those original families remained on the list. Now, the question really is, what happened to all those families, or more importantly, who's replaced them? And who becomes a millionaire today? Is it nature? They were just born to the lucky gene pool? Or was it nurture? They had the right education or access to the right contacts? Well, there's a certain percentage in each category that's true. But in 2012, he pointed out that the top 10 richest people were born either to a middle class or poor family. And 9 out of the 10 didn't even finish or attend college. So look, I'm not saying don't go to college. I have two children, both in university. One's about to graduate with a master's in business, and my son's also getting a marketing degree, undergrad degree he already has. And my daughter's transferred over to business, and she's going to be graduating soon. But I believe in education, so don't get me wrong, it's important. But for our purposes, it's not education that determines how successful you become. So you got to take that excuse and put it away. It doesn't matter. In fact, he took his students and they went around and they interviewed the most successful people that they could get to talk to them and asked them what it was that helped them to become so successful. And all these people reported it was maybe a conversation with someone they met. it was a dream, it was a book they read, it was a seminar, or maybe a video like this that they happen to watch, where the penny dropped in their mind. They said, I can set my goal bigger than I ever thought before. And they put their brain to work and they went after opportunity. Now, the secret of the wealthy is understanding the difference between linear and residual-based income. You go to school, even I tell my kids, they're probably not teaching you everything you need to know about money in your expensive universities that you go to. But think about this. Most people are going to learn a skill or learn a trade, and they're going to exchange time for money. Nothing wrong with that, but they only can get paid directly in proportion to how much they work. Where the wealthy, they create assets. They create an asset to be paid again and again and again. So the rich really don't work for money. I remember reading a book by Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Cash Flow Quadrants, and others. And he said the concept really behind the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad was that the poor in the middle class work hard for money and normally just buy liabilities. So I got to have the latest, greatest things, and they're spending all their money instead of taking what money they have and learning to be disciplined with that money and learning to invest in an asset. And the question is, what are assets? And so he has a whole book and a whole seminar on the cash flow quadrant. And I'll just give you my, sort of the Reader's Digest short version. Employees, they're in a quadrant. Okay, that's one of the four quadrants, the E quadrant, where they're trading their hours for money. They work more hours to get more money. The self-employed person, like I have a brother who loves to work for himself. He's great at it, has a great company, but he's still trading time for money. And worse, he's trained his own competition several times. The big business quadrants, where there is unlimited potential for return on your time, is a quadrant where you build. It takes time to, first of all, build up, but maybe a Class A franchise or several Class A franchises. But these B business quadrants, you're building something that creates residual returns long after you're at work. And the investor quadrant, is where you invest money into the B business quadrant. Usually in the B business quadrant, maybe you're the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or something. There's room at the top for a few, but most people don't make the big money. So the investor quadrant, basically, they invest in assets knowing they're not going to get a return right away. So how is that, and why is that important to this conversation? Well, Kiyosaki has always said, direct selling, home-based business is very vital for people to be involved in if they're not in a B quadrant or I quadrant business. See, the employees and self-employed people are never going to understand the financial situation they're in until it's too late. They're in the corner. They can't work. They get unhealthy, or something goes on, or the industry shifts, or technology shifts. And next thing you know, they're looking for work because they're not diversified. If I was your financial advisor, I'd never let you put money into just one stock. You diversify for a reason. So we're talking about the importance of home-based business and the trends of being in a home-based business. But the number one reason Kiyosaki says be in a home-based business is to build up a second income that's based on residual income. And the reason that Paul Zane Pilzer says you should have a home-based business is to learn new skills. And these new skills are vital for your future because the world is changing so fast. How fast is it changing? Well, here's some statistics. When the radio was invented, the transistor radio, it took 38 years before there were 50 million users. Television, it only took 13 years to hit 50 million. The internet only took 4 years to hit 50 million. The iPod came out. I remember my son saying, "Hey, Dad, I want an iPod for my birthday." I'm thinking, why do you need an iPod? I got a Walkman. I know some of you don't know what a Walkman is. They had a cassette player in it. But again, only 3 years, 50 million people had a Walkman. I remember when MySpace was the social network for artists and musicians. About 200 million users, I think, on there. Today, Facebook, I think, has more than 2 billion users in like 13 years. It's unbelievable. And yet, Facebook exploded without even advertising. No TV, no radio. No one saw an ad in the paper. Hey, join Facebook. A friend told a friend told a friend. So obviously networking, social networking is part of our lives today. Some people are obsessed with it, but it's a fact that networking is here to stay. You know, when you think about the internet and how it's changed the world, it's really changed everything. I think back around 1992, there was less than 1 million devices that could connect to the internet in the world. Today, it's what, billions? It's amazing how everything has changed. So if you're going to understand what I'm sharing with you today as an idea, as a concept, your paradigm has to shift. You can't keep seeing things the way they have been and expect things aren't going to change. So a paradigm shift is when your mindset gets to a place where something that today is common knowledge in the past wasn't common knowledge. I'll give you a couple examples. If you look at manufacturing, if you go back and Pilzer talks about this in his audios, he said, you know, in the original audio I heard with Tony Robbins, he said, in the manufacturing sector, when technology was applied, people like the Rockefellers, the Carnegies in steel, you know, the Fords with the automobile, they applied technology to manufacturing, lowering that cost. Now there's a distribution cost, but the fact that they lowered the cost for manufacturing, they became super wealthy. One of the mega wealthy families, hit the Forbes 400, okay? And that's manufacturing, but today it's really about distribution. In fact, recently, Jeff Bezos became the richest person in the world. He doesn't manufacture anything. It's all about distribution. See, franchising was a concept that was also misunderstood. A lot of people, you know, fought franchising. It came very close to being made illegal, you know, because people didn't understand the idea of signing an agreement, marketing someone's product and service, and you agree to give them a percentage of your business just for the idea, the coaching and the training. And then this network distribution or network marketing. Again, it's a concept a lot of people don't understand, yet it is a huge global business opportunity that's providing people with so much possibility. Hey, you got to be awake. You got to pay attention. Automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, it's changing everything. When I think of Sam Walton with Walmart, he used to be the richest person in the world. He wasn't in manufacturing, he was in distribution. Fred Smith at Federal Express was in distribution. There were already airlines. There was always the post office. But he said, I think people will pay a premium to get products and services delivered. I read that he wrote a paper in college called The Hub and Spoke Theory of Distribution. And the teachers didn't even give him a great grade on it. And look what he did. Became, I believe, a billionaire. Ross Perot, he ran for president years ago, but I remember his company, EDS, was just information systems. He was in distribution. And Jeff Bezos, today's example of Amazon, such a powerful company. Jeff Bezos took billions of dollars in investments and said, we're just going to promote a website. We're not even going to have a retail store. We're going to have distribution points. But we're going to quickly get the product, cutting out as many middlemen to the end user. E-commerce popped up and all they had was a website. And it has been such a disruptive force for traditional retail. But every business, every model changes. ACN changed over the years. If you think about even McDonald's when it was founded in 1940, it's not the same company it is today. In 1968, they added the Big Mac. In 72, the Egg McMuffin. In 1979, they added Chicken McNuggets, another big hit for McDonald's. But here's the crazy thing. They became the largest chicken distributor in the world overnight because of all the McDonald's stores all over the world. It's all about distribution today. And when you think about technology, and every day there's something on the news or in the newspaper, and you just pay attention to when you see these articles and hear these stories, the driverless car, everything's changing. And I remember watching 60 Minutes, and they interviewed a guy named Andrew McAfee. And he was the MIT Associate Director of Center of Digital Business. And he was on 60 Minutes. And he said, when you consider Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google, all public companies having close to $1 trillion market capitalization combined, together the four of them employ fewer than 150,000 employees, which is less than the total number of entrants into the American workforce on a monthly basis. So in the past, in manufacturing, you needed more and more employees to compete. That's not the way it is today. When you think of how disruptive Amazon has been, And you look at all the retail stores closing. I did a study the first half of 2017 up until June 2nd, and I made a list of all these companies, whether it was Sears in the United States closing 108 stores, Kmart 41, Radio Shack 1,000, Michael Kors over 100 stores. Macy's was the one that stood out to me because they closed 68 stores and over 10,000 jobs. And recently on the news, they're talking about Toys R Us is no longer going to be in business. They can't compete with the power of the internet. So if you've got blinders on and you're not paying attention, what's going to happen to you? Oh, you've got a taxi company. How do you feel when Uber came out? You know, it's disruptive. And so this is huge what we're talking about. The trends and the timing and the growing need for an opportunity has never been more real than it is right now. And in our industry, in direct selling and network marketing, we're providing opportunity. A low-cost entry to starting a business, and with ACN, you get an online shop, something you can do part-time as a backup plan. Learning new skills. And here's why you need to be doing it. Mark Cuban, billionaire businessman, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he says, automation is going to cause unemployment and we need to prepare for it. Bill Gates recently had said robots that take over a job formerly done by a real-life person should be taxed at the same level as that human. Do you think Bill Gates knows something we don't know? Why would he say that? He says that because the government needs us to work to bring the tax dollars in to finance supporting the country. And this robot takeover is real, guys. Even the new tax plan in the United States by President Trump, the truth is, I just read an article that it's going to encourage corporations to actually hire and put more robots in place and get rid of the employees because of the value to the bottom line of the company. Masayoshi Son, the CEO of SoftBank, said the burst of artificial intelligence is going to become a reality as robots gain higher levels of intelligence. The impact on society is likely to be profound. Saw an interview with Elon Musk recently and said, the growth in artificial intelligence needs to be watched closely and guarded. There's a serious opportunity and risk tied to it. You know, there was an article from insider.co.uk that I was sent, and it said almost a third of existing jobs in the UK are at risk from robots. With the difficulties in predicting what jobs there'll be in the future, lifelong learning and a positive attitude toward embracing change will be fundamental as an aspect of future success. Now read that again. With the difficulties in predicting what jobs there'll be in the future, lifelong learning and a positive attitude toward embracing change will be a fundamental aspect to future success. Jack Ma, he said, the Chinese billionaire said, by the way, if you don't know Jack Ma, he's the billionaire behind e-commerce giant Alibaba.com. He recently predicted pain is coming to much of the world very soon. He's referring to the fact that over the coming decades, robotics, artificial intelligence, and more advanced manufacturing is going to make a large portion of the human workforce obsolete. This change in the economy is similar to the disruption from the Industrial Revolution. We'll experience a massive shift of human jobs in a very short time. Now, look, if you're in the fast food business, do you know there's a McDonald's in the Phoenix area right now that runs the entire operation with 5 employees? So even somebody who's just trying to make some extra money, a low-skill wage working at a McDonald's, they're even at risk. So this is real, guys, and that's why you got to pay attention. You could be replaced if, the article said, you aren't increasing your skill set and constantly learning new things to bring value to your company. You'll be replaced if you have a bad attitude, a welfare attitude, or I'll just do enough as an attitude while never doing more than is expected of you. If you think small or have no vision or you aren't a problem solver, you will probably be replaced. Again, Pilzer said, author of the best-selling book, The Next Millionaires. He's a renowned economist. The one bright spot on the horizon that would give someone an opportunity to be retrained and learn new skills is direct selling. Yet so many of my friends are misinformed or uninformed, or they give up way too easy when a friend says, oh, those things don't work. They don't know what they're looking at. Home-based business advantages are huge. People usually retire to get the advantages we're offering. Lifestyle choice. Work from home doesn't interfere with your present job or situation. Flexible work part-time. Develop it gradually, then you can have some choices. You're diversifying your income. In many cases, it's greater income potential than your normal job. And with the access of technology, this little device here, you can do business across borders, across oceans. I built a global distribution business from a town of 6,000 people. How big is direct selling today and direct marketing and home business? It's enormous. I've been tracking this for a long time. 2010, the DSA, Direct Selling Association, said it was about a $125 billion industry operating in 150 countries. The last statistics I read online from the DSA was in 2015. It grew to $189 billion in turnover worldwide. That's enormous. I was tracking this back in 1993 when there was less than 15 million people involved. Now it's over 100 million people around the world. Yet there's still people that haven't shifted their paradigm. They see everything just like this. Oh, my job is safe. I've always had that job. Well, there is no security, guys. Everything's changing. There is a distribution revolution, and I believe with ACN, you're in the best position of all. We took advantage of deregulation in telecom. We're now taking advantage of the deregulation of energy. Deregulation energy is allowing you to work with ACN part-time, and in many of our markets around the world, you could profit when somebody turns on the light, cooks a meal, heats their home. And you could do this from a part-time business that costs peanuts to start. We got involved with the digital transformation in telecom. We actually put our own switches in North America, the Asia Pacific, and Europe so that we can control our digital traffic through the VoIP billing system we have. We took advantage of social networking. This is basically a friend telling friend business. We don't spend money on advertising, no different than Facebook doesn't. We're using e-commerce. We give every independent business owner their own online shop. Right now it's in more than 25 countries. It's in 16 different languages and growing. We're really creating our own little Amazon with our products and services. It's very similar to the franchise. You sign an agreement with a McDonald's, you sign an agreement to sell what they put in your store. They offer you training and support, but you can't duplicate your store and override those stores. In network marketing with ACN, you can do that. I remember my sister sent me a magazine because she knew I was into this type of, economics and these trends. And it was an interview with Jeff Bezos in Fortune magazine. And this was a couple years ago. Reading the article, and I took these quotes out of there. He said, at Amazon, everything we've ever done, people have had these reactions. We came up with the idea of customer reviews. They said, oh, it's a bad idea, Jeff. Obviously, many of you have read customer reviews when you're online shopping. We don't even know if they're real reviews, but we read them and they have value. Third-party selling. They said it was a bad idea. Reselling other products is one of the things ACN does, but we prefer to have our own brands. Personalization, bad idea. In 1994, he said, if you put your credit card on the internet, everybody said, it's a bad idea, don't do it. In fact, quote in the magazine, he said, every single idea that we have had at Amazon, people said, it's a bad idea. Every new idea is a bad idea, Jeff. But he says, our willingness to be misunderstood is one of our greatest strengths. And for me personally, my life has changed dramatically because I was willing to be misunderstood. So many of my friends and family I love dearly said, home-based business, how could it be real? You're starting for just a few $100s. I've heard of things like that. They can't be real. Meanwhile, 25 years later, ACN has reinvented itself, constantly got in front of new trends, new technologies, owners that committed to the process, committed to reinvesting, committed to changing people's lives, providing opportunities. It's not about buying more stuff for ourselves. It's about making a difference. We are now expanding in the Latin American markets and the Asian markets. We're reinventing the European markets. We're investing millions of dollars into Europe, adding services in 10 different countries over the course of 2018. ACN is a ground floor opportunity without the risk of a startup, and it's in front of all the best trends. And I predict over the next 10, 15 years, as more and more people are displaced from disruptive technologies and all of these things we've been talking about, they're going to be forced to be looking at opportunities like ACN. And I believe ACN stands taller than the rest. So I hope to see you as I travel the world doing seminars. I hope this information helps you to understand the power of the opportunity you're looking at with ACN.